निर्मल वाणी पाकर तुझसे नाम न तेरा गाया, नयन मोद कर हे परमेश्वर कभी न तुझको धाया। मन वीणा की तारे टूटे, अब क्या गीत सुनाऊं, हे पावन परमेश्वर मेरे मन ही मन शर्माऊं। मन वीणा की तारे टूटे, अब क्या गीत सुनाऊं, हे पावन परमेश्वर मेरे मन ही मन शर्माऊं। इन पैरों से चल कर तेरे मंदिर कभी न आया, जहाँ जहाँ हो पूजा तेरी कभी न शीश झुकाया। इन पैरों से चल कर तेरे मंदिर कभी न आया, जहाँ जहाँ हो पूजा तेरी कभी न शीश झुकाया। हे गिरधर में द्वार के आया, अब क्या हार चढ़ाऊं, हे पावन परमेश्वर मेरे मन ही मन शर्माऊं। हे गिरधर मैं हार के आया, अब क्या हार चढ़ाऊं, हे पावन परमेश्वर मेरे मन ही मन शर्माऊं। तू है या परम्पार दयालु, सारा जगत संभाले, जैसा भी हूँ मैं हो तेरा अपनी शरण लगा ले। तू है अपरंपार दयालु, सारा जगत संभाले, जैसा भी हूँ मैं हूँ तेरा, अपनी शरण लगा ले। छोड़ के तेरा द्वार दाता और कहीं ना जाऊं, हे पावन परमेश्वर मेरे, मन ही मन शर्माऊं। छोड़ के तेरा द्वार दाता और कहीं ना जाऊं, हे पावन परमेश्वर मेरे, मन ही मन शर्माऊं। छोड़ के तेरा द्वार दाता और कहीं ना जाऊं, हे पावन परमेश्वर मेरे, मन ही मन शर्माऊं। छोड़ के तेरा द्वार दाता और कहीं ना जाऊं, हे पावन परमेश्वर मेरी, मन ही मन शर्माऊं।
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. We would like to welcome His Holiness Bhakti Vaibhava Swami Maharaj for today's session. So we are
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Can you hear me?
Yes, Maharaj, we are able to hear you.
Thank you.
I will just give a brief introduction about you, and then you can start. So, regarding Maharaj finished his studies and joined Hare Krishna movement in 1970s when he was initiated by Srila Prabhupada. And Maharaj is initiating a spiritual master in Iskcon since 1987 and was awarded sannyas initiation is 1991. Maharaj, when Maharaj joined, was only a fledgling group of devotees in Germany, and together they recruited 80 members within 4 years. And he began the Berlin chapter of Iskcon during 1970s. And this became a doorway to share Krishna consciousness in the communist countries. Maharaj spent time in Soviet Union, Middle and Far East, sharing Krishna consciousness with the risk of his personal safety and oftentimes in trying circumstances. Maharaj established a thriving Iskcon center in Mongolia and has been awarded an honorary degree by the local university. Maharaj is a zonal secretary for Mongolia, Albania, Bulgaria, Czech Republic, Finland, Macedonia, Poland, Slovakia, and Maharaj serves as a co-zonal secretary for the Eastern and Western Siberia, Latvia, Belarus, Kaliningrad, Ukraine. He served as a GBC Executive Committee from 2006 to 2008, first as the GBC chairman and then as the committee member. Maharaj is very interested to secure the future of GBC in the next generation and has worked to support the strategic planning effort toward this goal. Maharaj has keen interest in filmmaking and spreading the culture of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, has resulted in two documentaries, Mother Ganga and Lost Village. Earlier in his spiritual career, he produced films on Indian culture for German audiences that helped to promote Food for Life, Iskcon's sacred food distribution initiative. And we were
I
very
think it's
fortunate.
I think it's enough about myself.
Just we had a very good fortune to have Maharaj Association in 2017 GBC meeting, and Maharaj came to Ujjain quite a lot time for Ayurvedic treatment as well. So we are very fortunate to have Maharaj Association again to hear about the glories of Srila Prabhupada and our beloved spiritual master. So we will welcome Maharaj by chanting one time Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Nama Om Vishwavadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Nama Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatayane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vansha Kalpatarubhasha Kripa Sindhupevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So first of all, my heartfelt condolence to all the disciples of His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj for the disappearance of your Guru Maharaj. I was requested by our facilitator to talk about 5 different topics, beginning with about my early days in Krishna consciousness. So I was both initiated, my first initiation and the second initiation by Srila Prabhupada by mail, because at that time, for those who were living in Europe and of course so many other countries, it was extremely difficult to just jump into the next airplane and fly to wherever Srila Prabhupada was at that time. So we couldn't afford that. And so in this way, I received both initiations by mail. And I met Srila Prabhupada for the first time in 1973. I joined Iskcon in 1970. And so when I met Srila Prabhupada, I was already, for the first time, I was already a second initiated. Then I met my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, for the first time. And that happened in Paris. And I still remember that incident, meeting Srila Prabhupada for the first time, as if it would, have been yesterday. Srila Prabhupada was so effulgent, sitting on his Vyasasan, surrounded by so many devotees. It was a small, rather small temple room, and it was packed. And Srila Prabhupada was chanting Jai Radha Madhava, and he obviously felt some transcendental sort of ecstasy, because when Prabhupada played the kartals, the Vyasasan was beginning to rock back and forth forcefully. And at one point we all felt like getting up and dancing, raising our arms and dancing. And Srila Prabhupada smiled, and then of course he gave class, and we participated in morning walks. You see, at that time, myself and so many of my German God brothers, we didn't speak hardly any English. So we had no opportunity to have a conversation, direct conversation with Srila Prabhupada. Not only because of our broken English, but also he was surrounded by his servants and secretaries and heavy sannyasis. So it was difficult for us to approach Srila Prabhupada. So I will talk a little bit later about my various interactions with the Srila Prabhupada. That's the second topic I'm supposed to talk about. But we grew up serving Srila Prabhupada most of the time in a physical separation from Srila Prabhupada, because he was traveling in so many countries and we could not physically follow Srila Prabhupada. So most of the time we didn't have much association. And he also trained us, he taught us right from the beginning, many times in his classes, in his letters, that Vani is more important than the Vapu of the spiritual master, because he knew he would not remain for much longer with us. He knew that, and he trained us in this way. And nowadays, I noticed that many Shishyas, disciples of Iskcon gurus, they are sort of demanding, almost demanding so much physical association. But Prabhupada taught us many times that the Vani, the instructions of spiritual master, is more important. And we all, at one point, we all have to leave this world. So Prabhupada trained us in this way. Even when Prabhupada was physically present, like in Germany, this was the second time when I met Srila Prabhupada in 1974. Even then, I remember what, of course, I regret now thinking back. But Prabhupada was present. He went on a morning walk, and our GBC at that time told us it is more important to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books than walking on a morning walk with Srila Prabhupada. So of course we surrendered, which I highly regret. But this was the mood, we were brought up in Krishna consciousness, that the instruction of Guru is more important than his physical presence. Of course, now we understand Srila Prabhupada also taught us that as long as the physical body of the spiritual master is present, it is a duty of the disciple to take advantage of it, to always serve the physical body of Guru, and of course serve his instructions as well. So the early days were quite austere. We didn't have much facilities. In Germany, when I joined, we did not even have books. They were not translated. We only had an English Bhagavad Gita, a small abridged version, and no German books. We only published one magazine, Zurück zur Gottheit, Back to Godhead. And this was the only literature we were reading and distributing on the street. And because at that time we were only a handful of devotees in the entire country, only 4, 5, 6 devotees, not more. So, and we were told to travel to different cities in Germany on our own, alone, by hitchhiking, because we couldn't afford to take a train or bus. So we had to hitchhike, and the hitchhike, stop cars on the highway, and then if we were lucky, they took us. And alone we went to the next city to stay overnight in what you call youth hostels, very cheap place. You had to live together with a bunch of youngsters in the same room. And you can imagine the circumstances, being alone in a Devotee with young people in the same room, living and staying overnight. So in the morning, I got up very early, usually 3:30 in the morning. I did my arti ceremony, ringing the bell. They were all waking up, wondering what is happening. And I took the opportunity to preach to them. Anyway, it was quite an adventure, the early days. And then, of course, as mentioned by our facilitator, that in '76, I started traveling to former communist countries. That's a whole story in itself. We had to, most of the time, smuggle Srila Prabhupada's books over the border. And you cannot imagine, all the different exciting encounters we had to go through, especially at the border. One time I remember with the Satchinanand Maharaj, we were lecturing at a university in Hungary, at that time also a communist country. And in the middle of our lecture, the Secret Service came and stopped the whole program, took us and drove us back to the border with a no return stamp. So we had to go through all these different situations in the early days. I also then I traveled in Arab countries, Lebanon, in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, so many different places, distributing Arab Bhagavad Gitas. It was quite some adventure, dangerous also. I don't want to get into too many details. So in this way, we spent our time in Krishna consciousness, extensively traveling, preaching. And of course, we all thought that Srila Prabhupada will stay for the rest of our lives with us. We were convinced about it. And what I also wrote in my letter, maybe some of you read it, in my letter to His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj, I also wrote, what was my point? So many things I wrote. What was my last point? Someone remembers? Our facilitator. What was my last point? You remember?
You was talking about your preaching in Dubai, and after that you turned to talking about this letter you wrote to Guru Maharaj, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, anyway, I read so many things in that letter. And so let us go to the second point. My various interactions with Srila Prabhupada. As I mentioned already before, we did not have so many personal interactions, but at several occasions I had the opportunity to render some direct service to Srila Prabhupada. And I remember very clearly in Paris when we were about, our German group of devotees, when we were about to leave back to Germany. Then we walked by Srila Prabhupada's room, and our GBC at that time, he just opened Prabhupada's room, the door to Prabhupada's room, and Prabhupada was sitting there looking up, wondering what is happening. Someone just opened the door. And then he told Srila Prabhupada, this is Avinash Chandra. This was my initiated name. And he is preaching, distributing books, and he would like to give you a garland. So I went with a garland to Srila Prabhupada, just about to place it around his neck. And then Srila Prabhupada, he interrupted me, stopped me. And I thought, oh no, what did I do wrong? And the Prabhupada looked up and told me that the garland is a little bit too wet. Please place it on the table, which was close by to Srila Prabhupada. So this was the first direct instruction I received. You never offer a wet garland to your Guru Maharaj. So till now, whenever Garland at any place, any temple is being offered to Prabhupada, I always make sure it's dry as possible, remembering Srila Prabhupada in that way. And several times I helped Srila Prabhupada. I had the opportunity to take Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet and place them into his shoes. And of course, so many different morning walks we participated in Germany and Sweden and India. And one thing I noticed very clearly, whatever Srila Prabhupada saw during the morning walk, he immediately connected with Krishna. One time he raised his cane into the sky, pointed to a rain cloud, and he mentioned, just see how many gallons of water are contained, tons and tons of water, such a weight, and water doesn't fall down. How is that possible, Prabhupada? He questioned us. And just a small airplane in comparison, if the motor not working, immediately drops down to the ground. Even a bird not flying drops to the ground. Hardly any comparison in weight. And then Srila Prabhupada mentioned, this is Krishna. He can do that. And if some water is required, it doesn't just fall down, which would be another disaster, but just drops of rain. Then Prabhupada again, this is Krishna. So anything he saw during the morning walk immediately connected with Krishna. So this was our experience being with Srila Prabhupada. He literally transported us into Krishna consciousness. So another point I'm supposed to talk about is any interactions I might have had with your Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj. Yes, in Germany in the early days, he, as far as I remember, he used to study at the Hamburg University. Some of you remember that? He studied in Germany, and he also he spoke German. Whenever I met Maharaj in India or other places, we always talked a little bit back and forth in German. So it's amazing. He studied in the same city in Germany I was born. It's amazing. And so he used to, because he spoke some German, he used to visit in the early days Germany and Switzerland, Austria also. And I still remember when there was one, what is it called, Composium. So many different religious leaders came, leaders of different spiritual organizations. Composium, a very, very large composium. A lot of people participated. And the topic was the soul. I remember that. So all the different speakers, gave their various interpretations of the soul. But I could clearly see that, hardly anybody was really, satisfied by their different interpretations, explanations. Most of the time, they just described a ghost, not really the soul. So then Bhakti Charu Maharaj, he stood up and he gave his speech, explanation of what the soul is. And immediately in the middle of his presentation, there was a standing ovation. Hundreds and hundreds of people just got up and started clapping in the middle of his presentation because they could see such a clear difference between his explanation, description of the soul, and all the other speakers. So I remember that very clearly. And of course, we were traveling together, doing programs, home programs, public programs, extensively in Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. And in India, several times, of course, we had interactions. We were talking together. remembering the old days, remembering Srila Prabhupada, and being very much worried about the future of Iskcon. This was even in our, before his disappearance, we were talking especially about this point of placing Srila Prabhupada so much more in the center of Iskcon and in the center of the lives of all Iskcon members. So we had email exchanges on this point. And I also wanted to meet with him. And of course, a couple of years ago, he was the chairman of the GBC. And I was also at the same time on the GBC Executive Committee, EC. So we had a very, very close association for a couple of years. And I could clearly see, how much His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj was concerned about Srila Prabhupada's movement, about Iskcon, about the future, how to preserve strongly what Srila Prabhupada established, what he accomplished, how to fulfill his many, many desires. And so we had a very, very close, very intense association for a couple of years in this way. So I would like to stop at this point and come to the fourth topic to take some relevant questions. So if anybody has some questions, then I can try to give some answer to my best ability. Is this okay?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, till now we haven't received any question. Devotees will ask. If you want to narrate some more pastimes for another 10-15 minutes, then we can take questions.
I would prefer to answer some questions now to have a little more interaction, because I can imagine you already heard, so many things, so many presentations. At least some of my god brothers told me they already had exchanges, with all of you. So many of my god brothers and god sisters. So I don't just want to give another, whole presentation, but I would prefer to have a little more interaction.
Yes, Maharaj, there is one question.
Okay.
This question is by Sundar Damodar Das. Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you very much, Maharaj. We are feeling blessed to hear from such a senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj, can you please enlighten, share your realization of long year of practice of Krishna consciousness? What mistakes we should avoid?
This also brings me to one important point that, we all, your Guru Maharaj, myself, and many others, we served Srila Prabhupada's movement, after his disappearance for 43 years. It's a quite long time. And that determination a disciple must have, that although his spiritual master passed away, departed from this world, but one has to continue serving Srila Prabhupada's movement, continue practicing Krishna consciousness. So this is one particular aspect you can take advantage of, is seeing that example in so many disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and of course also other devotees who are joined shortly after Prabhupada's disappearance. So that determination, I remember one of my godbrothers, I thought it was a very relevant, important point. He mentioned once, how do you really know the difference between a sincere devotee and a not so sincere devotee? And he mentioned a sincere devotee, he will, despite all obstacles, despite all problems he might encounter, he remains in the process of practicing Krishna consciousness. And the not so sincere devotee, he will leave, he will go away. So I thought a quite important instruction. The sincerity, of course, there's so many explanations you can give, but the basic point is sincerity really means you do not go away. You stay. You stay and you continue practicing. And then, of course, there's so many obstacles one has to overcome in order to be able to stay, avoiding all the offenses, especially against the Vaishnavas and the holy name. And this is also one example we could see in your own Guru Maharaj, and how much he preserved the Vedic culture, the etiquette, the Vedic etiquette of always showing respect to all the devotees of Lord Krishna. He was the embodiment of showing respect to the devotees, to the Vaishnavas, all the time, not only occasional, but all the time, under any circumstances. He showed so much humility and respect to his god brothers, god sisters, and to all the devotees. So that's the one of the biggest obstacle in our practice of Krishna consciousness, to commit offenses against the holy name and against the Vaishnavas. And what was the other aspect of the question?
This was the Maharaj. Regarding this only, Maharaj, can you please enlighten, share your realization of long year of practice of Krishna consciousness? What mistakes shall avoid? So this was the question. So
Yeah, I
there
think
is,
it was answered
yes,
more or less. Yeah.
there is another devotee, Lakshmipati Das. So Lakshmipati Prabhu, I am unmuting you. You can just unmute your mic and you can ask your question.
Maharaj, Dandvat Pranam. Am I
Hare
audible?
Krishna.
You can speak little louder,
Actually,
bro.
my question is, my question is, as my Brahmin initiation is now, how to seek, where I should seek the shelter for Brahmin initiation and how to progress further. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
I did not clearly understand. You already received Brahmin initiation or not? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry. My Brahmin initiation is due. So how?
So you receive first initiation by your right? First initiation you already received.
Yes, Maharaja. He has received
Yeah.
first initiation
Krishna,
from
Maharaj.
Bhakti Charu Swami Guru Maharaj, and
Yeah.
now he's seeking guidance from whom to approach, how to approach for second initiation and progress further in his spiritual life.
There were so many disciples also of Srila Prabhupada, they received only first initiation. And then second initiation, of course, you have to take from an initiating spiritual master. But the main point is the shiksha. The shiksha is the main point. Of course, we always stress the point, especially in my conversation with recent conversation with the Bhakti Charu Maharaj. We always stress the point that everyone's preeminent, or what I personally call foundational Shiksha Guru is Srila Prabhupada, that we should always remember. His Shiksha is our main shelter, that we should always remember that. So, and of course, you have so much faith in the instruction of your own spiritual master, so that remains the same. But because of technical reasons, you require second initiation, so that you take from an initiating spiritual master, and everything remains the same. You continue taking your shiksha, continue taking Srila Prabhupada's shiksha, and when you receive second initiation, then you can go further, rendering service to the deities, etc. The main point of second initiation is preaching. That's what Srila Prabhupada expected. Not only eating on behalf of Vishnu, but preaching, spreading Krishna consciousness. This answers your question? There seems to be some delay in the conversation.
Yes, Maharaj, it answers. Another question by Gaurav Prabhu. How can we keep Srila Prabhupada at the center that Guru Maharaj desired?
Yeah, there's so many points. See, I was just in the process of working on that with your Guru Maharaj. And the whole idea was to bring it to a practical proposal to be presented to the GBC body. So I don't want to talk too much openly now about this point, because that requires some substantial changes in the way we are accustomed to do in Iskcon, related to the relationship between the disciples of Iskcon gurus. But the main point, of course, is to always associate with Srila Prabhupada, listen to his classes, listen to his bhajans, reading his letters, listening to his hours and hundreds of hours, thousands of hours of conversations, morning walks, etc. There's so many, Prabhupada gives so many instructions. And to keep Prabhupada in the center means that primarily we should listen, associate with Srila Prabhupada. Then he's truly in the center, quoting Srila Prabhupada, remembering Srila Prabhupada, like that. So there's so many practical points also related to that, but I don't want to get too much into technical details, because first it has to be brought to the attention of the GBC body. This answers your question?
Yes, thank you, Maharaj. There is another question by Nitya Kishori Radhika Mataji. This is amazing to hear that you got initiation even without seeing Srila Prabhupada. And you have been always following the Vani form of Srila Prabhupada. What would be your advice for us now, as we were not so trained and so much still desire Vapu of our Gurudev? How can we still access mercy of our Gurudev and continue to surrender your servant, Mandas?
That you have to work, you have to sincerely work on your understanding of a spiritual relationship. Because a spiritual relationship is not limited by the physical presence of the spiritual master. It is a relationship beyond the physical body. And that relationship is eternal. So as more as we take shelter in that relationship, rendering service to the Vani form of the spiritual master, as more you will begin to feel the presence of your spiritual master. like you definitely had so many days and months you spent without the physical presence of your Guru Maharaj already, even though he was present. He was traveling also extensively. And now you simply have to extend that period. The physical body is not present any longer at all. So that, then you have to take shelter in that association. Just like when your Guru Maharaj was traveling. Now, how did you maintain your relationship? Remembering him, listening to his classes, uh, offering all your activities, your services to him for his pleasure, so that Lord Krishna might be pleased. So that you just extend now. Just continue remembering him, offering all your activities, your services to him so that he might be pleased. It simply continues. And as Srila Prabhupada himself stated, that he never felt that he was separate from his spiritual master. He always felt his presence. Because it is not a physically restricted relationship, it's a transcendental relationship. So we have to take shelter in that. See, in our we were only for 7 years together with Srila Prabhupada, only 7 years. And then he departed from this world. So we were forced to take shelter in the Vani form of Srila Prabhupada. And of course, in the beginning, it was not easy for us. Don't think it was easy. Oh yeah, this was my point. I forgot. I wrote that in the letter to all of you that that experience I had when Srila Prabhupada passed away. I was in Lebanon at that time, and it was it was devastating. I mentioned that for 3 days I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, nothing. So it was very difficult. But then we have to continue. Life has to go on, and I simply took shelter in that aspect, intensively listening to Srila Prabhupada's classes, reading his books, preaching. And I remember at that time, right after Srila Prabhupada passed away, departed from this world, practically every night I was dreaming about Prabhupada. Every night. So it is not it is a transcendental relationship, and the instructions can continue according to our steadiness of surrender. The instructions can continue in so many different ways. Yeah. Any other thoughts you have? Any other
There are many questions, Maharaj.
thoughts you would like to share?
There is one question by Hargesh Ras Istali Mataji. Thank you so much, Maharaj. I have so many regrets not writing so often to my Guru Maharaj, revealing my mind in confidence, or taking his guidance regularly in my life, thinking that Guru Maharaj was always busy with so much more important things than to sit and read my letters. Now I regret so much. It makes me very depressed. How can I deal with this now to rectify my delay and procrastinations? Hare Krishna Maharaj. Your mic is mute, Maharaj. You can unmute the mic.
There was some disconnection, I think.
Yeah, Maharaj. So should I read that question again by Rasasthali Mataji? Rasasthali Mataji.
Yeah.
Maharaj, I have so many regrets not writing so often to my Guru Maharaj, revealing my mind in confidence, or taking his guidance regularly in my life, thinking that Guru Maharaj was always busy with so much more important things than to sit and read my letters. Now I regret so much. It makes me very depressed. How can I deal with this now to rectify my delays and procrastinations?
Oh, you cannot imagine how much I was depressed when Srila Prabhupada left, because can you imagine, I did not even participate in one Vyasa Puja of Srila Prabhupada, not even one, because I was always told it's more important to render service to Srila Prabhupada than being in his physical presence. And additionally, as I explained before, we just couldn't afford traveling to far distant places. So, but how much I regretted now, even now, still I'm regretting. I could have taken so much more advantage of Srila Prabhupada's physical presence in so many ways. So you cannot imagine how depressed I was, and still I am. I don't use the word depressed, but I feel disappointed that I did not, fully take advantage of Srila Prabhupada's presence. So I'm lamenting. I think that's the right word, lamenting. So lamentation is there. But that lamentation, because it is related to your own Guru Maharaj, that lamentation also has a positive aspect, because you remember intensely your Guru Maharaj. But now it's too late. Well, we should have done it before. In his presence, we should have taken so much more advantage. Now it's too late. We can only lament, beat our head. But it helps us to remember Guru Maharaj more intensively. So in that sense, it is good.
Thank you, Maharaj. There is another question by Anis Kapoor. I have the desire to please Guru Maharaj and follow his instructions like many other
Yeah.
devotees. But I feel that my commitment is not strong and my determination is weak. How can I become very strong in bhakti and always remember the instructions of Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada?
Yeah, remember his own example. This is how you become strong. Try to follow, not imitate. No, we cannot imitate, but we can try to follow according to your own whatever strength you have. Try to follow. He could move mountains. You cannot imitate, but you can move some rocks, some stones, some pebbles. You can move. At least try to do it. Try to follow his example. Now, how strong he was. He was not afraid to do anything to protect Srila Prabhupada's movement. He was prepared to do anything. So try to follow that example. He was preaching extensively. Preach to whatever extent you can. Don't try to imitate, but follow. So in this way, you become also more strong, simply by sincerely trying to follow his example. That will make you stronger and stronger and stronger. It's not a sudden process. It takes time.
Hare Krishna
Any
Maharaj.
other?
Yeah, Maharaj, there
Hare
is
Krishna.
another question. During your time of preaching, there was not many books, not many devotees and books that was translated by Prabhupada. It will hard for you to preach, and still you stayed with Iskcon. What motivated you, Maharaj, to stay in Iskcon and follow Prabhupada?
The Prabhupada's mercy. There's no other explanation. Simply by Prabhupada's mercy, I stayed, I remained. Of course, we all had difficult times. It's not that I was strong in the beginning and became stronger and stronger. I also experienced weakness, even to the point I thought when I was alone in one city, trying to open a temple, alone, no support, no help. So I thought, what's the use? Maybe I should go away, just leave. Too difficult. But then I immediately remembered Srila Prabhupada, and that remembering him, his own example, how he struggled to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, what difficulties he undertook, then that kept me going. Remembering his example and receiving his mercy. Any other question?
Yes, Maharaj. There is another question by Madhusudan Govind Pro. Please accept my humble obeisance unto dust of your lotus feet. Maharaj, being a Grahastha, how can I serve my spiritual master to please Gurudev and Prabhupada?
Hosting devotees. This is the wonderful example of your Guru Maharaj, how he was hosting so many of his god brothers, god sisters, and other devotees. He was cooking for them, he was hosting, he was preparing everything to make them feel comfortable, inspired in Krishna consciousness. Follow that example. Invite devotees, cook for them, serve them, associate with them. We don't really make much difference between grihastas or sannyasis or brahmacharis. We're all in the same Iskcon movement. We know what to do, spread Krishna consciousness under any circumstances, render service to the devotees, associate with the devotees, listen to the classes, same for everyone.
There
As a
is
grihasta, you have so many facilities. So many facilities. You can have your own altar, your own temple, your deities, deity worship. You can invite guests. Every day you can have a Sunday program. In the temple, we only have one Sunday program, Sunday. You can have every day Sunday program. So many facilities you have. Practice and preach. Any other?
There is one question by Sundar Damodar Das. Hare Krishna Maharaj, Bhagavat Pranam. Can you please tell us how you came to Krishna consciousness?
How I came. How to make it short, because I don't like to talk so much about myself. How I came. See, at that time, in the 60s in Europe, in the 60s, life was quite intense. All the young people, they were dropping out of university, school, high school, and everybody was searching for some kind of higher consciousness, higher values of life. We were experimenting with so many things we avoid now in Krishna consciousness intensively. So this was our daily life, very intense. And at one point I thought, no, I cannot continue in this way. I have to change my life. Something has to happen. And I was in the middle of night, I was opening the window to my room. I looked into the sky. There were so many beautiful stars. And I was imagining, if God really exists, then kindly extend your hand, your arm, and just pick me out of here. I had this kind of vision. And then I took rest. Next day, I went on the street in the city, Hamburg. And there was one devotee, Mataji. She almost looked like an Indian, I remember. Black hair, red dot, sari. And she handed one invitation card to the Sunday program. And so I thought maybe this might be some indication, some reciprocation. So I went to the temple. It was raining, so much rain pouring down. I was in front of the temple at some distance with my umbrella. And I was thinking, shall I go enter the temple? Because somehow I had the feeling if I enter the temple, I will never come out again. So I was hesitant. Shall I go? Shall I not go? But then, of course, I went. And yes, I never came out of it. I remained in Krishna consciousness. So that's how I came. And I told the devotees at Sunday, I came for the Sunday program, that I would like to stay in your temple. And they told me, no, this is not our system. You have to come for 1 week every day. You have to visit the temple, come to the program, and then after 1 week, we will decide whether you can stay or not. And somehow I couldn't accept that. So I went back to my flat. I packed all my things, and the Monday morning I showed up with all my belongings, with my suitcases. And the devotees told me that, well, we told you this is not, you cannot just come. And anyway, let us think about it. They had a discussion, came back to me, and they told me, okay, you can stay. So that's how I came to Krishna consciousness, in a nutshell.
Thank you, Maharaj. There is
Any
one
other?
last question. Can you please share some pastime from your life which brings the realization that taking risk for pleasing a spiritual master is a source for his mercy, like your most risky preachings at communist countries?
Can you rephrase the question? Some parts I didn't hear clearly.
Can you please share some
In your
pastime?
in your own words.
The question is like it is being said by for getting the mercy of a spiritual master, one should take a risk. So can you share some pastime from your life preaching in the communist country which brought the realization that how you risked yourself and you are able to attract the mercy of Srila Prabhupada?
Yeah, this somehow stuck into my head, this idea of if you take risks for your spiritual master, for Krishna, then you will receive special mercy. So I try to follow that. This is why I didn't hesitate to go to the former communist countries, preach there, and Arab countries also. If you at that time, if you would distribute religious propaganda, if you do religious propaganda in Arab countries, non-Islam, then without any trial, no court case, they would put you into jail for 12 years immediately. So I took that risk. I was distributing Arab Ishopanishads and Bhagavad Gitas right on the street. And yeah, it was very risky. Quite often the PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization, they kidnapped me right on the street, put me in a car, and drove me into the mountains because they thought I was some kind of spy. They could see I'm not I'm a Western body, white skin, and also at that time we used to wear wigs, artificial hair, and so they could immediately discover that this is not a normal person. So then with the gun pointed at my head, they started asking questions. Where you come from, why you're here, and you had to answer very fast, very quickly. So sometimes when I didn't have a quick answer, then they pulled the trigger, and then I had to say something, just anything, just to save my life. So that happened about 3-4 times, and there's so many other occasions. Oh yeah, I still remember I distributed the Arab Ishopanishad in one big house with many flats. So I distributed many Ishupanishads from door to door in that house in Beirut downtown. And so I came out, walked about 100 meters away, and the entire building blew up, explosion. Because at that time, there was a 9-year civil war between Muslims and Christians. So that was on a daily basis, you could see hotels, skyscraper buildings just exploding. It was like a common scene. So in this way, we took so many different risks for Srila Prabhupada, and somehow Krishna always protected us. And I'm convinced that definitely helped me to receive a lot of Srila Prabhupada's mercy. I'm not saying that everybody should do this, but according to your own, understanding your own facilities and your own environment related to your own service, you can take some risk. Risk, simply means that it is uncomfortable for you. That means risk. You are not sure what will happen. It's very uncomfortable. It doesn't feel easy, but still you do it. So that kind of risk.
Yes.
Yes.
There is one last question by Lakshmivati Prabhu. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Though Guru Maharaj taught us in such beautiful way that we honor all Iskcon Guru as our beloved
Again,
Gurudev.
I didn't understand the last sentence.
Though Guru Maharaj taught us in such beautiful way that we honor all Iskcon Guru as our beloved Gurudev, but still
As
as our
I
beloved
oh,
Gurudev.
uh-huh.
But still, it may not be possible to offer the same corner of the heart to next Guru for accepting Brahman initiation, as I feel honestly. So kindly guide me.
I thought I mentioned that the main important point in a guru relationship is the shiksha. So one's own faith in guru, it is based on shiksha, instruction. Instruction comes first, and then in a natural way the diksha follows. So if you already received initiation based on shiksha, based on instruction, then that relationship is already established, it's already there. And I mentioned just for technical reasons, you have to take second initiation. And you can see it as the extension of your Guru Maharaj, that second initiation. Just like when Srila Prabhupada took sannyas initiation, he understood that his own spiritual master, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, gives him sannyas through his god brother. So you can see like that, through a guru who gives second initiation, through him, your own Guru Maharaj is this way you receive the second initiation. So there's no conflict.
Thank you, Maharaj, for yes. Sorry, Maharaj, you want to say something?
What is that?
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj. So these were all questions. So we are very thankful to you for giving your valuable association to all of us. and we express
No, I'm
our
thankful for your association. I'm thankful for your association. Now
so,
I will feel some separation from all of you. You put me into some difficulty, and now I will feel some separation.
yeah, Maharaj. So we express our heartfelt gratitude to Your Holiness for enlightening us. You very nicely explained the mood with which you all grown in your Krishna consciousness, that is serving the Vani. And you had narrated how Srila Prabhupada used to connect everything with Krishna, narrating the story, pastime of that morning walk. You told that how we can continue serving Srila Prabhupada mission even the spiritual master leaves. You told the meaning of sincerity, that we should continue to practice, we should not leave Iskcon. And how Srila Prabhupada is the foundational Siksha Guru, and how we can develop relationship with Srila Prabhupada by listening him, by quoting him. You told that how we can surrender, the instructions can continue as we surrender ourselves. You told that how we can become strong in Krishna consciousness by remembering and follow the example of our spiritual master. You told that how by remembering our spiritual master, we can receive his mercy and keep going on. And you very nicely explained, very nicely narrated. And you yourself is a very practical example of how the Vani is important than Vapu. Throughout your life, you served and still serving Srila Prabhupada. So Maharaj, we beg your causeless blessings to empower us so that we can follow these teachings and become the loyal servant of Srila Prabhupada and continue to serve in Iskcon throughout our life. And we also humbly beg to you that you visit Ujjain sometime, because this is one of the most important project of Srila Guru Maharaj. So we thanks a lot for your valuable association. We thanks by loudly chanting one time Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Also,
Hare
one last sentence. That as much as you want to remain in the association of your Guru Maharaj, he will reciprocate. He will remain in your association. So don't think he left. Physically, yes, he left, but not spiritually. He's still there. He's with you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. His Holiness Bhakti Swami Maharaj ki jai. His Holiness Bhakti
Thank
Charu
you.
Swami
Thank you.
Maharaj ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you.